on this channel for the first time, then welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Alan and I am a Brit from Liverpool in England, and I have been living and working in Taiwan for the past 10 years. And for the last year of those 10, I have been creating videos, putting them onto this channel, sharing my interesting life here in Taiwan with the rest of the world. Sometimes sharing interesting events, sometimes sharing different cultural idiosyncrasies, and sometimes, like today, taking my magic traveling desk around the city and discussing some big important question. So let's stop waffling and let's get to the big question of the day. Is Taiwan cheap? Well, in order to answer this question as succinctly as possible, first let's take a look at the definition of the word cheap. Low in price, worth more than its cost. And as I have covered in great detail in one of my previous videos, foreign teachers here will definitely agree that Taiwan is cheap, especially compared to their countries back home. And that's largely to do with the inflated salaries that you earn as a foreign teacher here in Taiwan. Some foreign teachers can be earning triple the minimum wage. So it's kind of naive for me as a foreigner to simply say, yes, everything is cheap. Because if we ignore the foreigner's viewpoint and we take a look at the national minimum wage here of 23,000 NTs, which is about $750 US, or perhaps more appropriately, take a look at the national average salary of a Taiwanese worker, which is, according to one report, 38,500 Taiwan dollars, about 1,300 US dollars. So, if we compare that average salary in Taiwan with an average salary from a Western country, let's take the US for example, then the average salary in the US every month is a whopping 4,500 US dollars, depending on the source you read. That's $135,000, 3 times the average salary here in Taiwan. So we can see that Taiwan is actually falling far behind in the average salary stakes and is actually more comparable to countries like Slovakia, Latvia or Poland, rather than the big Western countries such as America or the UK. So, for the purposes of this video, when evaluating whether or not Taiwan is cheap, what I will do is I will actually take a look at how much things cost in comparison to how much people earn on an average worker's salary. How many days, hours or minutes people have to work to buy certain things. This should give us a more accurate idea of how Taiwan's cheapness actually affects the average typical working person here, and how it compares to other countries around the world. So, for example, let's take an iPad. An iPad here will cost you 10,900 Taiwan dollars, and that's equivalent to 364 US dollars. Now, if you are getting paid an average Taiwanese salary, that's gonna take you 5.5 days to earn enough to buy that iPad. But in the US, where the iPad actually costs less, just 329 US dollars, it's only going to take you a day and a half to earn the same amount of money to buy that iPad. I know, it seems crazy, right? Almost impossible. Over 5 days work in Taiwan will get you the same thing that it only takes 1.5 days in the US to earn. Oh, and my calculation is only based upon working 20 days a month, whereas in fact a lot of people in Taiwan work 6 days a week. But it's the same when we look at some other items too. Let's take a $100 US pair of Nike shoes. Even if they cost the same in both countries, an average US worker is gonna be able to afford those shoes in just 3.5 hours, whereas here in Taiwan it's gonna take 1.5 days for them to be able to buy the same pair of shoes. Even something as small as a bottle of Coke will only take a US worker maybe 2 minutes to earn enough to buy it, but here in Taiwan it's gonna take a full 7 minutes before the average worker can afford to buy that drink, despite the fact that the Coke is actually double the price in America. So, does Taiwan sound so cheap now? No, not really, right? And I know that the average American salary might be skewed somewhat by those big fat cats up in Wall Street, But on the surface of things, from my naive, simple viewpoint, unless something very fishy is going on with the reporting of average salaries here in Taiwan, then Taiwan is not cheap at all for the average worker here. I just can't work it out. When I look at the price of things compared to salaries here, I just don't know how it works. But there are a few things that we could consider when it comes to the culture difference between the East and the West. Take, for example, the fact that families here, they tend to live in large extended groups with grandmother, grandfather, aunts and uncles all living under one roof. Then in that case, the average worker isn't having to buy a house and pay a mortgage, then possibly the typical average worker here in Taiwan would have more disposable income than the typical average worker back in the West who is having to pay his own mortgage. Not to mention the general culture of money here. It's more about saving money and making sure you're well protected for yourself rather than the Western culture of spending money, enjoying life. Just from my opinion, that is. I know that everyone is different, but yes, saving money here and actually having a huge bankroll behind you is much more important than it was where I came from. And inheritances here also tend to be huge. I've got some friends working very simple, basic, low-paid jobs, but they're absolutely loaded. Big inheritances come in, sit it in the bank, lots of money for the future, don't need to work so hard and worry about getting a big salary. So generally, the way the people view money here compared to how we view it in the West is not exactly the same. So comparing the concept of cheap between the two sides is actually like comparing apples and oranges. Pretty pointless. So if I'm serious about answering that question, is Taiwan cheap? Then based upon the evidence that I've already presented, and even considering those cultural differences that I mentioned, I would have to say that if you are a local person earning an average salary, then I think the answer is no. Taiwan is not cheap from that perspective. But, and here's the big but, if this video is aimed at foreigners abroad looking to either come here and work as a teacher and earn triple that minimum salary, or even if you're looking to come here as a tourist and bring with you your spending money from that huge inflated American salary, then you will absolutely find that Taiwan is a cheap country. Public transport, basically free. Intercity high-speed trains, a 350-kilometer journey for about $30. For me, that is insanely cheap. Hotels, $100 for 4, maybe 5 stars for one night. And food, incredibly cheap. Even if you are here as a tourist and you still want to stick to your Western food, then you can still probably feed a family of 4 for under less than $100 if you find the right place. So if you're watching this from overseas and you are thinking of coming here to visit as a tourist or even to come and work here as I did, and you're wondering how far your American dollar or any foreign currency will go, then let me tell you, it will go a long way. And if you are thinking of coming as a foreign teacher, then by all means please go check out this video, which will give you way more details on the cost of living and let you know how much money you're likely to save as a foreigner. So before I go, let me ask you, what is your experience of Taiwan? And do you think it's a cheap country or not? Let me know in the comments below from where you are watching. What is your opinion of whether or not Taiwan is cheap? Even if you've never been to Taiwan before, what is your preconception of the country? Do you imagine it to be a cheap country? In fact, anything at all on this topic that you want to discuss, put it in the comments and we can have a chat. Anyway, thanks for watching. All my team VVVIP, I want to see your hands up in the comment section. Let me know you're watching. Always here to the very, very end. Thanks so much for being here. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with your friends. In fact, share this with any of your friends that you have overseas so that they can follow the channel and they can get to see the beauty and how interesting life here as a foreigner can be living in Taiwan. Thanks again. See you next time in My Life in Taiwan. Oh my god, my chair is like right on the edge of the cliff. I need to get this video. Okay. Okay, ready?